Hey guys, welcome to episode 20 of the Worship Online podcast. Today we are talking about whether or not you should pay your musicians or your singers on your worship team. So this question comes up all the time, so we're just going to talk about it today. I'm here. This is Libby. We have Shalon. We have Brenton. We're so excited to talk about this.
We brought in...
so pumped.
We're so pumped. Something's happening in the studio, and I don't know what's happening, but we brought in, for this controversial post. This is going to be controversial. I know it. We brought in the big dogs, Libby Lewis.
Libby Lewis, as I formerly call her
She knows how
now.
to just smack you in the face with her beliefs, and you thank her for it.
Yeah,
you
for
thank
real.
her afterwards after she does. So
Oh, you don't.
yeah. All right. Well,
It's gonna be the best episode of our lives.
and we're also giving away
excited
a free Guitar Center gift card.
I thought you were gonna say guitar.
We're
but
giving
you're
away
right.
4 Guitar Center gift cards.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you win all 4 of them, you could buy a $400 guitar.
You're really good at math.
yeah.
You're really good
Thanks,
at math. But
thanks.
all you have to do is leave an iTunes review. So you can just go on iTunes and just put in your favorite part about the podcast. Maybe.
Yeah.
That might be cool.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to see them and then email us.
Yeah, email us at podcast@worshipalone.com so that we know it was you.
Yes.
Just let us know that you left a review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And we're pushing to 100 reviews. We're so close. By the time this releases, we may have hit it by now. I don't know. Either way, we're still going to, if you go leave a review, you're still going to win a gift card.
It's true.
But
Maybe next time we'll have confetti or something.
We are pushing. Stop what you're doing right now. We're just going to wait for you to go leave the review. We'll wait.
We'll come
and
back.
you just come right back.
Roll the
and,
Jeopardy music.
Just go win that gift card. Buy you some strings and all kinds of stuff.
You just leave that review right now. Just take a second.
Yeah, big push for 100. We're so close. You guys are awesome. You've been leaving some great reviews. I'm so inspired by the things you're saying. You're giving us the energy to talk and laugh and talk about things here because you're saying great things, and we know that we're actually helping you guys
That's
and
true.
saying things that you believe in, and we're also honored. We're so honored.
We
for
are.
that, so.
We are. I don't know why. We just have the case of the giggles today. So we're
we
going to
do.
talk about paying musicians. So let's roll
are.
that intro. Welcome to episode 20 of the Worship Online podcast. I'm so pumped because we're actually talking about, I guess it's a little bit more of a serious episode.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, it's kind of a touchy topic.
Yeah.
So it's like, why wouldn't we just have Libby here, the knowledge of Worship Online, and bring her to really drop the
Yes.
bomb?
Oh, no.
Me and you, we just get up here and just talk. Libby is well researched and
Right.
she is quotable, so just pay attention to what she says.
Very important.
And let me
No
and Brenton
pressure.
just fill in the extra
So,
space.
Libby?
Oh no!
Libby, all right,
What?
we're gonna go grab a coffee.
All right.
This is the first one the 3 of us have done together, so there's definitely some new energy.
I've been laughing
Yeah.
the whole time.
I don't know
I don't know
what's
why.
happening.
I think it's just out of anticipation of the unknown. But
Libby
really pumped.
was really awesome when I wasn't here. So we had to bring her back.
Seriously though,
Thanks, guys.
smashed that.
So
episode, like,
and I had to bring her back with me in here so I can show everyone how much better I am. Actually,
And we're actually talking about humility today. So
Humility,
It's really a
Shalon.
competition podcast.
yeah.
competition. That's what we're talking about today. But we're talking about paying musicians.
Yep.
And whether it's good, whether it's bad, what people think about it. And was this a question we got in? Is that what that was? Or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it a lot.
Yeah, we've actually posted like just the question on like Instagram, and just the responses are crazy. Like it's some of the most commented on posts we get.
Wow.
People are really passionate about this one way or the other.
Wow.
So let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, in my mind, we were kind of talking a little bit beforehand, but I kind of see like 3 real working options. And this is just from my perspective. I've known a lot of churches that pay musicians and then a lot that are strictly volunteer based. But it's kind of like if you're going to pay musicians, there's like an all paid or all volunteer.
Like all or nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're gonna, just as far as just the way that the team is set up, the way that it operates, the way you're able to kind of build a team and build camaraderie. If you're paying musicians that are subcontracted, that is a way to do it. And then, also if you are trying to build a volunteer team, then, I mean, there's so much like unity, community, church that's already surrounding that. And I would venture to say that's the healthiest place, is to have people that are just like all in, and they're giving their gift to the church, and that's just part. And if you live in a city or a community where you've got musicians, then it works really well. But there's also a lot of places where they just don't have musicians, and they need to hire people, and that's another option. But I think the third one is then some sort of consulting, like having musicians come in to train your volunteers. We want to sit down and go deeper into how to be a better drummer, or talk through some things you can do as a guitar player, things like that. So those were kind of the things that made the most sense to me. And then there's obviously the gaps between that, to me, don't make a ton of sense, but I know that it's like there are people who do it. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I've been a part of I think each different team. I've been a part of a team that was all paid. And then I was a part of one that was all volunteer, which growing up, that's how most worship teams work. Like, you didn't expect to get paid. Sure. It was just all like, you're serving the Lord. This is like missions work, all of that. So I didn't even think about getting paid until I was later, and I realized some people do pay. And then I've been a part of teams where it was both, where some people were paid and some weren't. And that had to do with just the availability of musicians, what you just brought up. Some cities, it's easy. Like in Nashville, it's really easy to find musicians. But in a lot of other places, it can be really hard to find good musicians. I know back in Colorado, one of our team members, we just didn't have a drummer for like months. And like, we just knew, like, we have to find a drummer. We have to pay someone. Even if they don't go to this church at first, like, it's going to make a huge difference to invest in this. So sometimes it just depends how much your worship team and your church wants to invest in the worship team itself.
Yeah. Wow. It's true.
Yeah. I to find that middle ground, I was actually a part of a worship team where some of the people were volunteers and some of the people were paid. And it was, and on one hand, it's great to be all volunteers, but on the other hand, like you said, like, what if you just don't have that? Like, what if you have a need and you need to find that? And on one hand, is it, and this is like not me like pointing my point of view, but like, is it, whenever a volunteer finds out that you're all volunteers, but one specific person's getting paid, it's like, how do they feel? Do they feel a little bit like, man, I'm up here doing this all for free and they're getting paid how much? Right. Like, is that fair to your worship team? And that's something you're going to have to ask, I think it all comes down to where's their heart at, though, too. Yeah. Where's the heart at? Whether they're volunteers, whether they're being paid, I think you want volunteers that want to be there, obviously. And I think to get volunteers that want to be there for free, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into that. In a roundabout way, you are paying them, but not with money. You're putting effort and you're putting time into them. You're putting time into those relationships. You're making them feel connected. The last episode, we talked about having team nights. Like, that's a way that you're paying it forward for those volunteers. You are, in a roundabout way, paying them by making them feel connected, making them feel involved. And that's, in my opinion, I think that's the healthiest place to be. But not saying like someone like David Curran, who comes from Elevation Worship, and their main band was all paid. They had a lot of volunteers, but their main band was all paid, and they're extremely healthy as well. Like, they're on one hand, they're all guys that love the Lord, but I think that though in their position, they were already serving for free, and they had great hearts, and the church saw that before they began paying them and bringing them on to be paid. It wasn't just like, hey, we just need someone come do this.
And it probably, kind of it's case by case. Yeah. So, you're not going to listen to this podcast or watch this and hear a definite answer. This is the right way to do it. This is not the right way to do it. So I think we can just call that like it is. But in their case, I think a lot of it has to do with time. I mean, you're showing up. Are you showing up multiple hours a week? Are you spending lots of time at home, like in the studio, putting extra tracks together and like investing more kind of work time towards this service because it really is so demanding? Or is it, show up to rehearsal night and service? And there's obviously a lot of factors that go into that. And, I think one of the things that makes a lot of sense is we talked about the healthiness of a community, and is there room for entitlement? Is there room for this kind of comparison thing?
Yeah.
And how are we approaching that with a paid and volunteer team that kind of live within each other? So if it's happening that way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that community is a big part, and communication is obviously huge in that situation. Like being really clear as to how and why you have paid people there. And then obviously diffusing, any of the kind of conversations that could come up with that. But this is just real life. I mean, this is just stuff that you have to think through as a team leader. But even with your paid people coming in, clear communication from the get-go. You're coming into this team that is a community. We're already, we've got these team nights, or we've got these things that we're really trying to cultivate an environment of community. And you coming in, you can either lift that and help that and invest into that, or you can kind of just roll in, play the songs, and leave.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, something you want to be really clear about before you start.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting, at least what I've experienced in the past, and I just want to bring this up, is, let's say you decide you do pay somebody, then the issue comes up, and, if someone else on the team isn't getting paid, I think the question comes up, like, how do I know that that person is still coming for the right reasons? Because ultimately, like, everyone wants a worship team where everyone is just loves being there. They don't even mind, like, whether they're paid or not, because all they want is just to worship God. Of course, that's, like, the perfect team. But there comes a moment where you might need a certain musician, and you have to decide, like, is it worth having a team of all volunteers who want to be here every week, or is the excellence of our sound more important, where we need to invest in another instrument to improve that sound?
True.
But then does that affect the spiritual growth and spiritual mindset of the worship team?
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously so many angles you can go with that, because the thing that comes to my mind is, like, being comfortable where you are, like, even if you're at a place where you're growing, but you've got really good volunteers, people with hearts that are trying to thrive and grow. If it's not at the level of necessarily excellence you want, the more they do it, the better they get.
Yeah.
In that sense. Not to just throw a blanket statement out there, but I think that that's in some cases, like, are you willing to go the distance with that?
Yeah.
Or do you bring other people in? But when you bring other people in, just maybe you do have to, like, there are no other options. And then you do that, and you make that decision with kind of the idea of helping your team. Again, that whole kind of consultant kind of approach, where it's like, we want to bring you in to breathe life into this situation and to help take it to the next level.
Yeah. And I think it's important too, if you're a musician who gets paid or thinks you're at the level where you should start getting paid, to take a look at your heart. Just because you're getting paid, though, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, that's not a bad thing. I remember, like, back before I moved to Nashville, I was playing in a church, and I would get paid sometimes to go play at other churches. And I had my home church, and I loved, and I played there for free and served. The only reason I wanted to get paid is because you're pulling me away from my home church, like where I serve and where I'm going to be at. If it's the same way with, like, traveling pastors, you pay a pastor to come speak because you're pulling them away from where their community that they're serving and growing into, and that you're pulling them away from that. So they kind of have to make themselves a little bit exclusive. Like, they can't just be pulled away and never see their families. They have to charge, or else anyone's going to bring them everywhere, and they have to be to the point where you can't live that kind of life. You got to be with your family and stuff. But I think there's not a level of this that, like, I haven't been a part of. I've been a part of the full paid, the full not paid. I've even seen situations where a church was considering hiring a new worship pastor, but their band and their sound was just struggling so bad. The sound of the band was so bad. They never could find a drummer, and they had multiple campus, never could find certain electric guitar players, and they were just running tracks for a lot of it. And I think for them, instead of hiring a new worship pastor, they already had like 3. They should have just taken that $40,000 a year or whatever and invested it into hiring musicians. That would have seriously helped cultivate that environment, because one, great musicians love playing with other great musicians. So if you have volunteers on stage who are awesome and the band is just horrible and like no one's prepared, and it's just they're not going to want to stick
they're not gonna wanna
around
stay.
for that long.
Yeah.
So if you can at least bring in some other people to make them feel confident and make them feel like they're enjoying it more, and like this is great, that can really help the culture and the atmosphere of your band, bringing in better musicians. So like I said, there's so many routes. I'm not hard, like I don't think I'm not one way. Like some people might say, oh, you pay a musician, you should never pay a worship musician, they should only be there for free and for the heart of it. But I disagree. I think there's lots. It just depends. It depends on where you are as a church. Depends on where that person's heart is, where your team's heart is. If you find a musician who's like, I'm not doing it unless I get paid. I mean,
Red flag.
that's one place, like I think of like people like Austin Davis, whose first paid gig ever was with Carrie Job. He served at his church for free, traveling multiple campuses, just served and had the heart to serve. And one day God called on him and said, hey, I see you serving. Here's your opportunity. And his first paid gig ever was with Carrie Job. And I have a lot of friends like that, actually. You just first played. I was traveling with a friend recently. We played like this tour in South America with this worship artist, and he's just like, yeah, man, this is my first paid gig.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, this is a really big deal for you, is to be your first paid gig. And he's like, yeah, man, I've always just served like my church and stuff. Like I think people see that. Those are the people you want to bring. Like those are those people who just are going to be there whether you're paying them or not.
That's so good, man.
There's such a heart for worship, and I think whether they are paid or not, I think that they should still have the heart for worship, a heart to grow communities and grow what God is doing.
That's so good.
That's really good.
I have nothing to add to that. That was just
I
think that was a great perspective.
Libby's like, oh, that was actually good. No, thanks, Libby. Thanks.
Wisdom,
Shayla's a genius.
No, right?
My word. Dude, but for real, I think that what you said is paramount, because there's so many I think musicians that kind of have that growing in their heart. Like, I want to do this full time. I want to get paid. I want to jump out and actually make this part of my life, you know? And it's great. It's great to have that desire and that dream, but I don't know if it's something that's necessarily sought out as much as an opportunity that's like that comes to them in Austin's case. And so many people that I've met in Nashville who are doing music full time, you ask their stories and it's just like, they were serving in church and randomly this guy walked up and was like, hey, I got a rehearsal that we need a drummer for, and it turns into a full-time career, you know? And like those kinds of things can happen if you're faithful. And I would say to the paid musicians, like to the pastors or leaders who are like looking to hire out musicians, I think what you said is really good. Like having a home church, are they planted somewhere? And is this, something that, when they come in, they're going to come with that heart to serve and that heart to grow a team and to really pour into what God's doing in this house? Or is it just another gig? Are they just another musician trying to get paid? Or is this like, this is the heartbeat. This is what they live for. And I think that's really good, and honoring them financially and then helping your team is huge. So that's cool.
Like you said, there's nothing wrong with honoring your team in a way by paying them. Like just whether you're paying, maybe it's a one-time gift, or maybe you're paying them consistently. There's nothing wrong with just honoring people that are really like serving and really putting their heart and soul into something. And man, being a volunteer like isn't easy. Like it takes a lot of time. Some teams you're there every day of the week almost, it seems like. And so, I mean, it's not easy sometimes. So there's nothing wrong. It's not a sin, or it's not against the Bible to honor someone who's doing something like that. If you have the resources.
Well, I think that all of that is really important, and everything obviously is kind of a case by case, like situation. So if you have a question, or if you're up against something and you need some help, obviously we're here to be a resource to you, and that's why we do this podcast. And hopefully you can hear the heart and see the heart behind what we're talking about. We're not just throwing out a bunch of blanket statements, this is what you have to do. But I do think that it's important to ask questions, get involved, start the conversation, and take a look into your situation and ask others around you, like, what would you do if you were in my shoes? folks, and that's what a community is all about. So feel free to shoot us your questions. And
Jordan Holt, I got to pitch this. Jordan Holt, the guitar player for Carrie Job, one of our guitar instructors. You guys know that. Yeah. I'm just telling everyone. He wrote a really cool blog post recently on our blog called "How to Become a Touring Musician."
Oh yeah,
and I think it's super relevant to this topic.
Awesome.
It's so great. If you're listening, go check that out. Google "How to Become a Touring Worship Musician" or go to our blog, search for it. It's awesome.
So good. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yep.
Cool. Man.
Yeah.
Just gold right
here.
You guys.
Trifecta, whatever. It was all you.
No.
You pulled it out of him.
Libby pulled it out of me. I don't ever say anything.
I just sat here.
It's awesome, man. Well, we're still giving away this $100 gift card. So jump online and leave us a review on iTunes. And let us know what your favorite parts are on these. And we're going to keep doing these. I love this whole approach of just helping even answer questions. And we're kind of diving into some of these specifics that you're sending us. So this is all very relating just because we're getting all this information from you, questions from you guys. So shoot them to us. Let us know what you're having issues with or things that you just like to celebrate, things that you guys have found worked for you.
Yeah.
And we talked about that with team nights, like shoot us things that are working for your team and things that we can help you guys with or even just share like great ideas with worship teams, because we love kind of being able to take the temperature of what's going on. So, anyways. If
anything we said helped you at all, we'd love to know. I mean, I'd love to know about it. We've getting a ton of great reviews. So, and it's super inspiring to us to just know what is helping you guys. If we said something that like impacted you and you did something with it and like whatever, we really want to know. Like, so email us. We're actually doing a push for reviews right now. We're really trying to get to 100 reviews on iTunes. So leave a review, send us an email, podcast@worshiponline.com, to let us know that you left a review, and just leave us your iTunes username so we can connect your email with your review, and you're on your way to winning $100. I said iTunes, a gift card. Guitar Center gift card. $100 Guitar Center.
Come on.
Gift card.
Yeah.
Guitar Center.
Guitar Center.
It sounds like I'm saying
Center.
Guitar Center.
From the South.
Heathen Guitar Center.
Yeah. Heathen Guitar Center. Go spend $100 Guitar Center, you center. Wait. All right.
I'm from the South. That's
See you guys.
Oh no.